Hey, welcome everyone. It's Mina. Welcome to the 10x Vision interview of former corporate leaders turned entrepreneur. This show is sponsored by pullimpact.com. The purpose of the show is to introduce you to 10x people like Jen and their career transitions, lessons learned, success journeys, so you too can take inspired action to make change you want to see in your life and in the world. If you want to fulfill your full potential, surround yourself with 10x people, those who take actions to achieve their audacious dreams. Today, my guest is Jen Conger, former corporate director turned entrepreneur. Jen used to launch multi-million dollar marketing campaigns for Fortune 100 companies. Mm-hmm. So Jen, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. And tell us, what do you do now and who do you serve?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and speaking to your audience. So I'm Jen Conger. I am a social media coach. And right now in the business, I work almost exclusively with women entrepreneurs, and I help them get comfortable using social media and email marketing to sell. So a lot of times we look at social media as a brand awareness tool, and we don't quite know how to convert that audience into paying customers. And so I help them with putting a plan in action and some goals attached to it so they can monetize their social media and email marketing efforts.
Oh, that's very important.
Yeah.
For some reason, especially as women, we do have tendency of afraid to sell for some reason. And so selling, well, when there's no sale, there's no business. So the selling part is very important. Also, it's not just much about the sales, it's also about helping people. If we don't sell, we help no one, including ourselves.
100%. And a lot of the women that I work with are very mission driven and very passionate about the impact that they want to make. And so that is something that we have to start rethinking and kind of putting new beliefs into our mindset that the more I sell, the more impact I have and the more transformation I create in people's lives. And when you look at it that way, then sometimes it gets easier to take those invitations and those sales asks.
Yes, wonderful. You led multi-million dollar lead generation campaigns when you're in your corporate days.
Yeah.
So now you're an entrepreneur. What led you to where you are today and why you are at where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So my corporate career started in 2003. And I was always in marketing roles. And so when the dawn of social media came in the early 2000s or in the early, 2010, I was on the front edge of that and really experienced the power of Facebook and social media to propel a business forward and really help us develop one-to-one relationships with our customers. And so I got super energized and passionate about it and was really focused on climbing the corporate ladder, because at the time, a lot of my own worthiness and the way that I judged how I was being successful in the world was having the job titles and the big salaries. And so I had taken a position as a director of marketing for a small tech startup and found out I was pregnant with my second son and found myself so overwhelmed by the demands of both being a mom and having this high-level, executive-level position in this small company. And it led to me actually having my very first panic attack. Wow. So I was at work, and so part of me was like really embarrassed and then also very frightened at the fact that I couldn't control my emotions or what was going on physically with me. And so I ended up taking a month off of work for the health and wellness of me and my child. And then I just decided, I don't think I'm going to go back. And so I reached out to everybody that I knew and just asked for marketing projects. And that's how this company was born about 3 years ago.
Wow, wonderful. Did you get any what resistance did you experience when you switch in your career? For example, some people will jump on giving you advice, or they will just call you crazy, when you transition from a very cushy job to being an entrepreneur. There's all sort of advice. And also there's resistance from yourself. So how do you decide what advice to take and what kind of inner voice to listen to and what to shout out?
Right. And that's a really great question, because people will always have their opinions about what you're doing. And it's just good to remember that nobody quite understands what's going on in your own head. And I was just really focused on that work-life balance. And so the resistance that I felt early on in starting the business was, should I be a stay-at-home mom with the business on the side, or should I go after the business with the family on the side? And so a lot of the opinions that I heard at the time was, well, why aren't you staying home with the boys more? Or why did you decide to put them into daycare? And so I felt some of that mommy guilt and some of that judgment. And it wasn't until I made the decision that I really did want to pursue an entrepreneurial role and build my business that it really started taking off. And so I had to come to terms with what I was passionate about and what I wanted to do, and not worry about the thoughts of others.
That's really difficult to take, but ultimately our dreams more important than what people think of us.
Absolutely.
So how did you get your first few clients and sustain your business in the beginning?
Right, absolutely. So in the very beginning, I was just looking for side jobs and marketing projects just to kind of get the company off the ground. And at the time I was halfway through my pregnancy and I knew I was going to want some maternity leave time. So it was just almost like a side hustle of just trying to bring some extra income in. And so I reached out to everybody I had ever worked with, past employers and colleagues, people I went to college with, everybody on Facebook and LinkedIn. I mean, I just went to my entire network and said, I'm doing my own thing. Do you have any marketing projects that I can help you with? And that's what got the business running. And so it was enough to keep me busy part-time. And then probably about 18 months into the business, I moved from California to Nebraska for a position that my husband took. And so we did this halfway across the country move. And a lot of those projects started dwindling because I wasn't in front of people and I didn't live there anymore, where I had that face-to-face connection, and I knew I needed to change the business. And the other thing too, I realized at that time was that I was really treating the business like from the employee mindset of, let me take the projects and tasks that you don't have the capacity to do, and I will just execute them for you. And I knew that I was in a way selling myself short, and then my clients as well, that I could serve them in a greater capacity by really helping them on a strategic and coaching level. And so I decided to completely shift what my company was all about. And I stripped away all of my services and just focused on strategic coaching sessions, and then have now started building online courses really geared to helping women entrepreneurs put a plan in place for social media. And the business has actually gone leaps and bounds in terms of income by making that adjustment and making that shift from a side project, I'm just going to take, the jobs you don't want to do, to actually serving and creating impact. And so it's been a really interesting journey over the last 3 years in that.
Wow, that's very brave for a lot of us, especially women. First of all, we don't ask, we are afraid of exposure ourselves, especially coming from former corporate leadership role. It's very hard for us to ask for helps. So what you did there was very strategic in the beginning, to just ask for help from everyone, and then at least get your side hustle going first.
Right.
And the second brave part is you are able to let go and we shift your focus again and also make even bigger dreams and bigger impacts for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was a really scary leap. And it's something that I've talked about with some of my clients and colleagues and people who own their own business, where we feel like we need to be everything to everybody. Mm-hmm. And so we want to just be that yes person and just take all the jobs that we can get. And at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, well, what are we saying no to by saying yes to these things? And is that really how we're meant to serve people? Is that really serving in our best capacity? And when I narrowed my focus and when I narrowed my niche, it was really easy for people to understand how I could help them. So my messaging and my packages and what I was offering was just so much more clear and concise that it was a natural process to see actually more sales come in when I drilled down and sort of honed in on my purpose.
Mm-hmm. Is there any particular reason you choose to focus on women only? Because I know a lot of guys who also need helps.
Yes. And I do work with men. I do have some other clients that are men, but I am very passionate about helping women get that work-life balance because of the situation I found myself in right before I started the company. And just a lot of things that kind of went on in the corporate life and the relationships that I developed with my other women colleagues, and just knowing that we all really strove to have more time at home with our kids, flexible schedules, but still feel like we had a purpose in the workplace. And so I feel like very encouraged by these other women who have taken that leap of faith and left corporate careers to venture out and start their own thing so that they can have that balance. And I think that there's something too you teach your children in a way by doing that. Because we tend to see men in sort of these leadership or entrepreneurial roles. And it's nice to see all of these women sort of standing in their strength and saying, I can have it all. Like I can have both, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. How different is it to work for or to launch marketing campaigns for Fortune 100 and now you help business entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs to launch their own marketing campaigns? How different is it? Well, besides the budget part.
Yeah. And there's definitely a big difference when it comes to budget and resources. I think the biggest difference is working at the corporate level, you don't see the impact of the revenue you're bringing in. And so we all are focused on revenue goals and dollar goals, even if we're doing a corporate marketing launch or as an entrepreneur, our own marketing launch. But the difference is in the corporate level, we're almost so far removed from the impact that it has on the business or even the business owner, because we might be 50 people away from the CEO, right? Versus working with an entrepreneur or somebody who has a very small business, we can see firsthand, we're very intimately close to the impact that these marketing campaigns can have, which is just another, passion driver when you really see the difference it makes in the entrepreneur's life and then in the client's life as well.
Yeah, that's wonderfully said. Same for me that now I used to impact a public company. I used to work for public companies, publicly traded company. So I see the impact in the bottom line. I know exactly how I impact the bottom line. Now I'm impacting people's life, which is very inspiring and also satisfying.
100%, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about your 3-part social media formula. I know that's one of the things you teach your clients. Would you mind sharing that with my audience?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the biggest questions that I get is just what to say and do on social media. And so I came up with this three-part formula to really narrow in on how you determine your social media strategy and how you really measure and gain success on social media. And I call it the CTC, and that stands for connecting, trusting, and conversation. And so these are all three parts to a system of things that we need to be doing on social media to see the results and success we want and monetizing those efforts. So the first one, connection, is really just about getting out in front of our audience and reaching them where they are and connecting with them where they are. And so a lot of times we spend a bunch of time kind of focused on creating our content and putting it out there, but not so much time on really figuring out where our ideal clients are on social and finding ways to interact with them and develop relationships where they are, sort of invite them in to the content that we are creating. And then the trust part is the actual content itself. So we want to make sure that we are creating content that's really valuable and service oriented, and at the end of the day is all about our ideal client. So that's not to say we don't want to share personal aspects of our lives and our business, especially as an entrepreneur, because so much of our success is on our personal brand and whether or not people really know and like us. But we always want to find ways in that content to make it about the client and their pain points and their passions and their goals and how you can help them get to where they want to be. So that's the trust part. And then the last piece is conversation. And this is one of the mistakes I think that I see the most, is that people aren't developing one-to-one relationships with their audience and their followers. And how we do that is by starting to have conversations in direct message. So even if you are on Facebook, then you're in Facebook Messenger, or if you're on Instagram, you're in your DMs, and you're developing relationships with the people who are interacting with your content and leaving comments or watching your stories or coming on to your lives. And based on the interactivity that they're having with your content, you want to move that conversation from a one-to-many to a one-to-one conversation with them in their direct message, and just develop that relationship with them. And so if you think about the CTC framework, it's really like networking in real life. And so we're taking a lot of the principles and the ways that we network face-to-face and in our local community, and we're just applying those same techniques onto social. So we're figuring out where people we can collaborate and people who we can serve are, and we go and find them on social. We start conversations with them. And then we're making sure we have something important to say through our content. And the last piece is that we're developing that more one-to-one relationship that then tends to lead itself into sales conversations, which is really how we monetize our efforts.
Wonderful. So when you're building up your business, what's your 3 top lessons learned that you can share with us?
Yes. Well, definitely the first lesson is narrowing in on your ideal client and focusing on how you serve. And so I touched on that before. It just really makes it easier on you at the end of the day to have, one streamlined product or service, especially in the beginning when you're first getting started, and even in those first 5 years until you start adding on. And then I think one of the other lessons is making sure that your mindset is in the right place to get you to where you want to be. So 90%, if not more, of our success, I think, is determined by what's going on in between our ears and not necessarily the action we take. And so if there are thoughts that are coming up or self-limiting beliefs around what you're capable of achieving or what's possible for you, or even money or your value or your worthiness, recognize those thoughts and do the work, or partner with somebody that can help you break through those beliefs so you can find the success you want. Because what ends up happening is that we play really small and really safe. And that's what I did for the first couple of years in my business, because I wasn't recognizing those thoughts and things that I was having that was not allowing myself to really chase after it and really get after it. And then the third goal, I think, is just continuing to develop relationships and also not judging books by covers. You know, some of the people who have been the biggest in terms of collaboration or supports for my business are people that I would have never guessed. And sometimes, especially when we're on social media, we look at the follower counts and we look at the content they're creating and we sort of judge, you know, what they can offer us in terms of collaborations or relationship development and things of that nature. And they can be vanity metrics and they don't necessarily show the value inside a person or really what they're doing. So I've worked with 7-figure businesses that don't have strong social presence necessarily, or a strong online presence for that matter, but they've been incredible people to work with and so transformational. And so that was another thing that I learned, is that be very open to meeting everybody you can and just talking to and developing relationships with as many people as you can.
That's a very great advice. In fact, my own private clients, they're not even on any social media.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my mentors, who's now a president of one of the biggest company in Canada with 350,000 employees, it's like the Fortune 100 probably in the state. She's not even on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really hard to judge people on those metrics, because sometimes people will think they can only learn from the gurus, but then they find out they're so far ahead of them. Like, instead of following people just a step ahead of them, that they can learn something more relatable, they need to follow the gurus. And then after a long time, they're not getting anywhere. They're like, why? So yeah, that's a very great advice, actually, for all the people who are starting.
Yeah.
So what are the challenges for you now? All of us, as when we start, at least in the first 5 years, well, actually all the time, we all have challenges. Yeah, it never change. It's just bigger challenges.
Right. Yeah. So for me, where the business is right now is just figuring out really what the vision is for the next 5 or 10 years and how I build and develop a team. And so I'm at the point in my business where I'm at max capacity. And so I'm kind of just staying status quo in terms of revenue and the number of people that I can help. And so I know I'm at the point where it's time to start thinking about hiring somebody part-time or partnering with a virtual assistant. So up to this point in my business, I've really done everything on my own and by myself. And so the challenge is letting go of that and learning to kind of give in and trust somebody else to come in and help me, because I know I need that if I'm going to continue to scale and grow. But part of that is really understanding and visualizing that team that I want around me over the next 5 years. So I'm planning ahead with that decision too.
Congratulations. That's very important too. When we scale, it's very important to let go. And as long as you have a strong system and process to help you carry through the scaling part.
Right, right.
So what do you like the most about your life and business now?
Oh, well, I am a big extrovert, so I love all of the people that I meet and the conversations just like this that I get to have on a daily basis. So I really enjoy the interaction, and I do a lot of in-person workshops and training. And so I'm out in my local community here in Omaha all the time. And I love that I have the flexibility to build my own schedule and, you know, get my hands in kind of a bunch of different things. And I just love helping people figure out social media. I think it's just such a big question mark, and there's so much information out there, and it's hard to know what's going to make sense for you and your business and your time and resources and budget. And and really what your goals are. And so I love just helping make it easier for people. And that just brings me so much joy.
That's so true. So where can people find you?
Yes, so the best place to find me is on Instagram. You can find me at Jen Conger, and I'm on Facebook as well at Jen Conger Marketing. And so I'm super active on both channels. I'm in my stories every day and doing lives, sharing tips and tricks. So definitely come join me there and hang out.
Now you remind me, you told me you're not even having a website. So for a lot of us who started a business, I see a lot of women or some of my clients, they make the mistake of spending so much money building out their websites, and then there's no one coming because they got sold to that idea that when you have a nice shiny website, you get a lot of business. That's totally not true.
Right. Yeah, I still don't have a website. And I've been doing this for 3 years and have all of my clients coming through word of mouth or social media. And so I really practice what I preach. So I'm working with people on monetizing social media efforts, and the majority of my business comes from social media efforts, but then also referrals from other past clients and students. And I want a website. I'm building one, but when I first started my business, I had built a site around marketing services and done for you services. And now I don't do that anymore. And so it didn't make sense to have that content out there. And so now it's just a matter of updating it with how people can work with me now. But it was lower on the priority for me because I was focusing on other organic efforts. And so it is a good reminder that you don't have to have a huge investment starting, and you can do social media for free. I also have not spent any money on advertising to grow my business as of yet. And so there's a lot we can do on an organic, free basis that can drive huge results for our business.
That's exciting to learn and exciting to know.
Yes.
Anything else you would like to share with our audience before we wrap up the interview today?
I think the biggest thing that I would share is to just keep focusing on your why it is you do what you do, because as entrepreneurs, we know there's lots of hurdles, there's lots of bad days, there's disappointment, there's things that we wanted to go a certain way that didn't go that way. And a lot of times we just think, would it be easier if I just went back to work? I've had those moments so many times where I thought it might just be easier if I went back to work. And I've had to kind of shake myself out of it and say, no, that isn't what you want. And you can do this. You have it in you to make this work. And so I would just remind people to focus on why they're doing what they're doing, why they started their business, and just keep that passion going even in the times where it seems rough, because it takes time. It's a long game, and nobody has overnight success, even though we think they do. And so it does take action and that constant strive and drive.
That's very true as well. A lot of people who got into it are thinking about making money overnight.
Yeah.
Because of the social media as well as media. But what they see as an overnight success is probably over 10 years. So,
right.
Or even before that, because people don't build their skills and abilities in just like one night.
Correct. Yep.
No matter how smart they are.
Yes.
So what's your vision for your business and also for the world?
Oh, I love that question. My vision is just to serve more people. And so I've definitely moved a lot into online courses because I can serve and help so many more people that way. I'm looking to launch a membership by the end of the year. So the membership will be really focused on helping entrepreneurs with their social planning. So, and really planning around promotional activities and promotional events. So again, with just that emphasis on how we monetize our social media efforts. And so the membership is a big goal for the business. And then for the world, I think just being involved as much as I can in the entrepreneurial environment, especially supporting women. I love the movement of community over competition and women empowering women. So just getting more involved too in the community and making sure we're doing everything to help uplift each other, because when one person rises, we rise with them. And so continuing to be able to focus efforts on that as well.
That's well said. Exactly. I think most of the people I've been connecting with, we're all thinking about collaborating and helping each other up instead of competition. That's probably the old way or the corporate way of thinking. And I'm always thinking creating a bigger pie so everyone can have a better bite.
Yes, I love that.
So thank you for sharing your journey with us today, Jen. And for those of you who are watching the replays, please share your questions and comments below for Jen and myself, and we'll reply your comments or questions. Until next time, set intention, take action, just like Jen said, take action, and also dream big and start small. So thank you, Jen, again. And
thank you.
we have had a conversation. I've learned so much from you, and I'm sure everyone else will or have learned so much from you as well. And until next time, bye for now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.